course, we know he has another son by the name of Ishmael, but not really with his wife, but with a servant. The name of the servant is Hagar. Now, of course, we must also bear in mind, I don't know if I have mentioned, that of course we know that Abraham is supposed to offer Isaac in Mount Moriah, right? Mount Moriah, of course, at present is of course the same mountain. Well, in the New Testament, fast forward, Jesus Christ will also be sacrificed by the Father, offered to us. That's why it's a prefiguration of what will happen in the New Testament. The only begotten Son, of course, the only Son of Abraham also. Remember, they will be walking for 3 days. Okay? Jesus, of course, will rise on the 3rd day. Okay? And of course, Jesus carrying the cross to Calvary. We know also Isaac carried the wood to Mount Moriah. Okay? The only difference, of course, is that, of course, with Abraham, the offering was replaced. Okay? But of course, with the Father, with God the Father, the only begotten Son was sacrificed on the cross. Okay? So that's the highest point, as I said, in the life of Abraham, in the story about Abraham. Now we are slowly going down and transitioning, of course, to the next character with his son, of course, Isaac. Okay, so we are in chapter 23, right? Okay, the span of Sarah's life was 127 years. Some people will be saying, wow, that's very long. But don't forget, when we started reading the book of Genesis, who again is the longest life span? 969, who is that? Methuselah, right? Methuselah, 969. Okay, that's the longest lifespan. So if we are reacting to 127, that is nothing, of course, to Methuselah, who died at the age of 969. But anyway, the chapter 23 tells us that Sarah died at the age of 127. If Sarah is 127, then how old is Abraham this time? Huh? 137. Because remember, that gap is 10 years. Remember, when Isaac was born, remember, Sarah was 90 and Abraham was 100. Okay? Therefore, by this time, if Sarah dies at the age of 127, how old must Isaac be by this time? 90 to 127. 37 years old. Abraham is 137 years old by this time when Sarah died. Okay? She died in Kiryat Arba, now Hebron. Okay? Hopefully we go to the promised land next year in the land of Canaan. And Abraham proceeded to mourn and weep for her. Okay? Then he left aside of his deceased wife and addressed the Hittites. Although I am a resident alien, because of course we know, at this point, they have not taken possession yet of the promised land, of the land of Canaan. That's why he comes from Ur, or comes also from Haran, is considered to be an alien in the place, resident alien. Among you, sell me from your holdings a burial place, that I may bury my deceased wife. Now, my dear friends, that's something very important for us to note, that when Sarah dies, Abraham will be buying a burial place for Sarah. Okay? Because normally, right, in our life, if you are a stranger in a place and somebody in the family dies, what do you do with the matay? Bring back to your place. But here, notice Abraham is not sending Sarah back to Ur of the Chaldeans, or not even Haran. But now Abraham is buying a burial place for Sarah in that place, in Hebron. Which means, what do you think? Abraham considers this place already to be their place. Okay? Now, of course, that must be, in the underground of all the things that we are talking, that must be known to everybody, right? That Abraham considers this, even though he's a resident alien at this time. Notice the difference also with Abraham and Lot. Remember? We find Lot to be already residing in Sodom, while Abraham still in the tent. Remember the difference? But with Abraham buying a burial plot for Sarah, that gives us a hint that Abraham considers this already our place. Right? Okay. I don't mean anything negative or what, of course, because I'm Filipino, so the Filipinos here, when they die, when you don't normally ask them, are you bringing back to the Philippines the body? What do they normally say? Not anymore, Father, because we already live here. See? This is already our place. Are you? But those Filipinos who live here, who consider themselves to be temporarily residing here, and as the intention still go home, what do? No, because Father, time will come, we'll be still going back, so I'll just bury my wife or my husband back there. So that, you know, therefore, for Abraham to be doing this, he considers this already our place. That means he is not leaving this place anymore. Is that something surprising? Is that something surprising for us? No. Why? Because the whole story about Abraham is practically that. Right? The whole story practically about Abraham is that Abraham was told, leave this place, and go to the place I will show you. This is your land, Abraham. For Abraham not to consider that land to be already their land, oh, that's a violation of the covenant.
So it's like settling in the land of Canaan?
Already, because this is already the promised land. Remember, that's what God told him. This is your land, Abraham. Okay, this is your land, Abraham. That's why now that Sarah is dead, he is buying a burial plot for Sarah. The Hittites answered Abraham, please, sir, listen to us. Listen to us. You're a mighty leader among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of all burial sites. None of us would deny you his burial ground for the burial of your dead. Now, don't think that they are giving Abraham the land. Huh? You must always put into your mind that, remember, Abraham is a very powerful man. And not only that, what else?
Rich.
Very rich. That means for them, it's like, come on, let's get money from here. Okay? Okay? So don't think that we'll just, okay, take anything you want. Okay? Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial sites. None of us would deny you his burial ground for the burial of your dead. Abraham, however, proceeded to bow low before the people of the land, the Hittites, and he said to them, if you will allow me room for burial of my dead, listen to me. Okay? Very important also for us to notice, if you will allow me room for burial of my dead, that means they are allowing Abraham, he is not treated anymore like, get out of this place. Okay? We welcome you in this place, which is not very surprising because of his wealth and because of his power. Remember, he was able to defeat even 4 kings or 5 kings in alliance. So, you can just imagine the kind of business Abraham brought to the place. I hope you realize. Intercede for me with Ephron, son of Zohar, so that he will sell me the land of Machpelah that he owns. It is at the edge of his field. Let him sell it to me in your presence at his full price for a burial place. Now Ephron was sitting with the Hittites. So Ephron the Hittite replied to Abraham, in the hearing of the Hittites, all you who enter the gate of the city, please, sir, listen to me. I give you both the field and the cave in it. Okay? So he even goes beyond what Abraham was asking originally. Okay? In the presence of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. But Abraham, after bowing low before the people of the land, addressed Ephron in the hearing of these men, if only you would please listen to me. I will pay you the price of the field. Accept it from me that I may bury my dead there. Ephron replied to Abraham, please, sir, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. That's why I don't think that he's giving it to Abraham. The way it is formulated is like he's giving the land to Abraham. But no, they're like making a bargain with each other. By the mere fact that Ephron is mentioning the price. What is that like 400 shekels? It's like saying, I know how rich you are, Abraham. Okay? 400 shekels actually is very exorbitant to buy that land. 400 shekels. That's very, very pricey. It's a very high price. Okay? But notice Ephron, he's mentioning even the price because he knows Abraham would not mind it. Okay? Because of his wealth. I will pay you the price of the field, accept it from me that I may bury my dead there. Ephron replied to Abraham, please sir, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? It's like, well, there's nothing. 400 shekels, Abraham. Bury your dead. Abraham accepted Ephron's terms. He weighed out to him the silver that Ephron had stipulated in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver at the current market value. That's very expensive. Thus, Ephron's field in Machpelah facing Mamre, together with its cave and all the trees anywhere within its limits, was conveyed to Abraham by purchase in the presence of the Hittites, all who entered the gate of Ephron's city. Now, take note, this place is the promised land. Abraham is buying a piece of land in the promised land. It is like slowly possessing the land. Okay, little by little. Okay, after this, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, now Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Thus, the field with its cave was transferred from the Hittites to Abraham as a burial place. From there, we are transitioning to the next story, which is, of course, Isaac. Now, Machpelah is something that you must always remember because we will go back always to Machpelah. Go back because Machpelah is a burial plot land not only for Sarah. Everybody else will be buried in Machpelah. In the book of Genesis until the end, there will at least be 6 people that will be buried in Machpelah. You have, of course, Sarah, you have Abraham, you have Isaac, you have Rebecca, you have Jacob, you have Leah, but not Rachel. Okay? Rachel will be buried somewhere else because she's special, of course. But Machpelah will be, of course, a burial place for the family, for the clan. That's why it's very important. Okay, so let's move to Isaac. Now, of course, we are following the line. What number of generation is Abraham again before we lead him on the background? His generation number? Number 20. Okay. Therefore, Isaac is generation number 21st. Okay. Abraham was old. If Sarah is 127, of course, Abraham must at least be 137 by this time. Having seen many days, and the Lord has blessed him in every way. Abraham said to the senior servant of his household, you know, unfortunately, chapter 22, the 24 doesn't tell us who is this senior servant. We can only make our guess. Okay? We can only make our guess. Make our guess in a sense. Remember when he did not have yet any son, and God was telling him, what are these rewards that you are promising me? When there's nobody except the son of my servant. It might be. We're not saying it is, huh? It might be the same servant that is talking about to inherit everything that he has if he doesn't have his own son. And later on we'll have Ishmael and of course Isaac. Abraham said to his senior servant of his household, who had charge of all his possessions, put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but you will go to my own land and to my relatives to get a wife for my son Isaac. Of course, imagine if you're Abraham, you're very old already, you're soon to die, your wife is already dead, all you have is your son. Any parent would like to leave their sons, children, to be, to be secured for their future. And the most important thing for you in their culture to secure, if it is especially a son, is to have the rightful wife. Remember, for them, you don't married. Marriage is arranged. Okay? The family takes care of that. That's why Abraham, before dying, he makes sure that his son will have the rightful wife. And to say rightful wife, because remember, they are in Canaan. So what does it mean? If they're in Canaan, so what's the point, Father? He cannot marry in that land. Because, of course, we know this already during the entire time of our class, they marry their relative. Therefore, they left the place. Okay? Now he only has Isaac. Now, of course, Abraham wanted to make sure the son will have a rightful wife. That's why he will make the servant swear. He's like the chief servant. And how does he make the servant swear? By putting the hands under the thighs. Okay? Why under the thighs? Do you know that in the olden tradition of the church, we still do that? Even in the olden antiquity, that's how we swear. We put the hands under the thigh of the bishop and make our promises. Okay? Because that's also in the Old Testament. Because putting the hands under the thighs, it's an oath of you fulfill your promise, and if you don't fulfill your promise, there will be a corresponding curse on your side, and it is more of infertility. Remember that Abraham is asking him to have a wife for his son. Therefore, he is saying, if you don't fulfill your promise that you're gonna look for a wife, rightful wife for my son Isaac, you will not have your own son. You yourself will not have your own son. Okay? That's why it is the kind of sharing that the servant is making. Okay? So it goes back to him, the curse. Okay? Of infertility. Okay? So that's how they do it. That's why here, he asked the servant to do that. So it's like saying, if you don't fulfill that promise, you will not have a son of your own. Okay? And then, the servant said, what if the woman is unwilling to follow me to this land? Should I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Even though you did not read, perhaps you did not read ahead, what do you think will be the answer of Abraham? And what should be the answer of Abraham? So the question of the servant is this. So the servant is tasked to look for a wife to their original place, right? For the relatives. Now, the concern of the servant is, what if I go there, I find a woman, but the woman is not willing to come here in Canaan? Shall I bring Isaac, your son, there? What do you think should be the answer of Abraham? No, why? Because to bring back Isaac to their land is breaking the covenant again. Are you following me? Because this is already your land, Abraham. I promise you, I told you this is your land. So if Abraham leaves the place, this time it's already Isaac, Abraham will be gone. If Isaac leaves the place and goes back, he breaks the covenant with Abraham. Between Abraham and God. That this is their land. Okay? Let's see. Let us see what will be his answer. Abraham told him, never take my son back there for any reason. Okay? Because if he takes Isaac back there to their original place, either Ur or Haran, it is breaking the covenant. Because the promise of God is, this is already your land. Not anymore Ur. Not anymore Haran. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house. Okay, so the answer is here. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and the land of my relatives, and who confirmed by oath the promise he made to me, I will give this land to your descendants. He will send his angel before you, and he will get a wife for my son there. Notice the faith of Abraham again, huh? So the servant, of course, if you're the servant, you'll be worried about, like, boy, how am I gonna look for a wife for Isaac? Especially, this is a far place. Will the woman come with me? But you see the faith of Abraham again. Notice, huh? In the person of Abraham, we always say, Abraham always believes that God will always make solutions to every problem. It's not our problem, it's God's problem. Let Him solve that. That's why He says here, that God, the Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and the land of my relatives, and who confirmed by oath the promise He made to me, I will give this land to your descendants. He will send His angel before you, and you will get a wife for my son there. It's like actually telling the servant, don't worry about that. Just go there. I'm sure God will. He told me this is already our land. This is where we should already be. So if this is the promise of God, when you go there, He will lead you. God always provides. When He promised something, He's always faithful. Okay? Always remember that in your life. Huh? When God promised you something, even though sometimes it's a, notice the servant. For him, it's like, this is like difficult. Huh? He must be thinking, I don't think there will be a woman willing to leave their place and go to this place. That's why in the mind of the servant, that's almost like impossible. But in the mind of Abraham, what's in the mind of Abraham? That's nothing. God always takes care of whatever we need. If He told me this is my land, this is our land, and my descendants, hello, Isaac is my descendant. If He doesn't provide wife for my son and willing to come here, then how can His promise be fulfilled? The challenge really is with us. Sometimes we are the ones making solution. Okay? Forgetting that when we do things according to the command of the Lord, it is His job. Most of us here are serving the church, right? Different ministries. Ayun, you don't forget that in the performance of your obligation in your ministry. Don't ever forget that is not your ministry. Okay. Even as priests, that's why we are called alter Christus. We perform in the person of Christ. It is not our ministry. It is the ministry of the Lord. We are just instruments. Just like you. You are ministers performing not your ministry, it is the Lord. Therefore, if it is the Lord, even though sometimes, Father, I could not really stand confidently in front of you, He'll take care of you. Okay. When you invite people, can you be like a lady? I don't think it. You're thinking of you. You're not thinking of... I don't know if I've shared this with you already. I studied in the seminary for 13 years, first year high school, 9th grader. 13 years straight. And then just about a month before my ordination, I just celebrated my 25th birthday. That's a month. That's when you really feel, perhaps those who got married, maybe the days before marriage, that's the time you really feel like, am I really entering this? This is like a point of no return. I mean, as the days come, that's when you really feel the pressure, right? The same experience with us priests. As the days were coming, it's like, when it's almost a month, I went to my spiritual director and I told him, Father, I don't think I'll get ordained. I said, can we postpone still? And you know what did he tell me? Val, of all your classmates, you're the only one who went straight, no rest at all. Because, you know, in 13 years, normally seminarians will take their break. Like 2 years, 1 year, we call that regency time, we'll go out. Because it's a long years of 13 years. But I went straight, no rest at all. And then he said, imagine 13 years you went and then now you're almost at the finish line, you're gonna say, I want to be postponed ordination. And your reason is, because I feel like I'm not worthy. And then he looked at me and said, why? Who is worthy? Because you're thinking of your capacity. If you're only looking at yourself doing this job, then no one of us should be here. Okay? But it is the Lord. For some reasons, the Lord chose you, and that's what makes you worthy of it. It's the calling and appointment that makes you worthy.
So, Father, what is sabbatical leave? That's different from the...
That's different. Sabbatical leave is really for the priest. By law, that's why it's called sabbatical, because it's every 7 years the priest is supposed to take 1 year break. But doesn't really happen. But by canon law, it's always like that. On the seventh year, you are set free, given, not responsibilities. You can take your rest. It's Sabbath year. But I've never heard of a priest who took that by law, because of the lack of priests. Can you imagine if all the priests every 7th year of your ordination takes a 1-year rest? Well, nobody. But anyway, so that's why here, going back to Abraham, the personality of Abraham, it may look difficult, almost impossible, but hey, it's the Lord. It's the Lord, He'll take care of it. Just like going up Moriah. He asked me to offer this, He must have a plan. He's the boss. Okay. But never take my son there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham and swore to him concerning this matter. The servant then took 10 of his master's camels. Can you imagine? It's just the servant traveling and is bringing with him 10 camels. Okay, what am I implying? That's how rich Abraham is. Okay, camels is like the most expensive transportation during the time. It's like considered like a limo during the time. Okay, it's like a 6-door limo. Imagine the servant traveling with 10 limos with him. Imagine Abraham. But bear in mind, why do you think is the servant bringing 10 camels? What do you think? Why? Show off?
Gift for the
Okay, that's one reason. Remember, they pay dowry to the family. Aside from that, you never really know how much things you'll be carrying back with a wife. Okay? So he must be sure he can carry everything. What if the woman who says yes has a lot of luggages? So the servant must be like planning. I better be sure. Okay? That's why he brings 10 camels and bearing all kinds of gifts, okay, from his master. Because of course they will have to pay the dowry. Okay? He made his way to the city of Nahor. Now again, as I said, city of Nahor, we can interpret it 2 ways. That means it is a city named Nahor, or the city where Nahor lives. Who is Nahor? The brother of Abraham. Remember? 3 of them. Abraham, Nahor, who's the 3rd brother? Haran. Haran died. Okay, so be prepared for the test next week. So Haran. So it's a city of Nahor. It can mean where Nahor lives, or a city named Nahor. Maybe named after Nahor. Of course, when Abraham says, from my relatives, who else than the family of Nahor? Haran is dead. Okay? And with Haran, you have Lot. You don't know what happened to Lot anymore. Okay? He disappears in the story. Okay? In Aram Naharim. Near evening, at the time when women go out to draw water, he made the camels kneel by the well outside the city. Then he said, Lord God of my master Abraham, let it turn out favorably for me today, and thus deal generously with my master Abraham. Okay, so he must have learned from Abraham trusting in God. And aside from that, remember the last words of Abraham, don't worry so much, the Lord will provide. That's why when he reaches the place, maybe the servant saying, boy, Lord, the God of Abraham, you must help me provide this woman. Okay? Then he said, Lord God of my master Abraham, let it turn out favorably for me today, and thus deal graciously with my master Abraham. While I stand here at the spring, and the daughters of the town people are coming out to draw water, if I say to a young woman, please lower your jug that I may drink, and she answers, drink, and I will water your camels too, then she is the one whom you have decided upon for your servant Isaac. Why do you think will that be the sign that the servant? Well, first of all, you must notice it's a woman, because in their culture, it's the woman that does everything. The women are really the workers. The men are just having coffee at home. Get the wood. That's the culture. That's a year. The woman getting and watering the animals, giving water to the animals. That's just their culture. It's the women that work. Okay? Now, why is this sign? Why of all the signs? The servant is saying, I have here my animals. If I approach a young woman and I say, can you lower your jug? Another thing we must remember, lower your jug. Why not him? Lower his own jug. I think I've shared this with you already. Remember? The woman by the well? The Samaritan woman, remember? Noon time, Jesus sat by the well, and Jesus waited for anybody to come. Why did he have to wait for anybody to come and to help? Because there's no bucket by the well. Why is there no bucket by the well? They carry. Why do they carry their own? Later on, when we start reading also the next book, we will see that it's constant. Nobody, for the Guamanians, because me in my province back when I was young, everybody has a well, like literally well. You really have a bucket. That's how you. No water system. Okay, at least in my province, I'm talking very straight. But we leave always the bucket by the well, and we tie the rope to a tree so that it doesn't fall everything there. So every time we need water, you go to the well, then draw water, you have your own bucket, then carry it, and then leave the bucket with the rope by the well. That's the practice. But here, you will notice that with them, no bucket by the well. Because this is a place where water is very difficult. You don't leave bucket by the well. Because if you leave the bucket by the well, this place it's not like the kind of place we have that water is continuous. For them, when you take like 10 buckets of water, it's dry. And then it takes time to have water again. That's why if you have a well, never leave a bucket by the well. Because if there's a bucket by the well, anybody who passes by the well, there's water. They will not have water. Okay? In fact, we will be reading the next books. You'll be seeing that the neighbors would agree. They'll say, okay, in the morning, we'll come this time when the sun is not yet out because it's hot. Everybody is by the well. Everybody gets water. And then after everybody has gotten water, okay, let's roll the stone. They will roll the stone and cover the well. And then in the afternoon, they'll be agreeing again what time every day. That's how it is. The whole neighborhood gathers by the well and then rolls the stone in order to open the well. That's why here, notice, the servant is not getting his own water because there's no jug, no bucket by the well. That's why he said, I will wait for a woman who will arrive, young lady, whom when I say, can you lower your jug so that I can drink? And if she says yes, and even voluntarily offers to also give water to my animals, then she's the right woman. Why do you think? Why of all the signs? That sign is the one asked by the servant.
Hospitable.
Hospitable, which means
Similar characteristics of Abraham.
comes from the line of Abraham. It's like saying, if the woman behaves like that, no doubt she's a relative. She's a relative of my master. Because this is how my master behaves. Okay? Now, aside from that, not only that Abraham is very hospitable. Remember that it's also a sacred duty for them to be hospitable. That's why you see that with Lot, you see that also with Abraham. Okay? That's why it's not surprising that this will be the sign that the servant will say, if this happens, then this is the right woman. So what happened? Drink, and I will water your camels, so then she is the one whom you have decided upon for your servant Isaac. In this way, I will know that you have dealt graciously with my master. He had scarcely finished speaking when Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. Remember them again? I think I still have the slide. Okay. Okay, so you have there Nahor. I'm talking of Milcah. You have Bethuel here, the son of Nahor, and Rebekah is his daughter. That's why, so looking at the line, therefore, Rebekah really is the rightful wife for Isaac because she's obviously a relative. Nahor came out with a jug on her shoulder. The young woman was very beautiful. They must come from a family of beautiful ladies. Sarah is very beautiful. Now we are told Rebecca is very beautiful. Not just beautiful, but very beautiful. A virgin, untouched by man. She went down to the spring and filled her jug. As she came up, the servant ran toward her and said, "Please give me a sip of water from your jug." "Drink, sir," she replied. And quickly lowering the jug into her hand, she gave him a drink. Then verse 19, very important. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking." Can you imagine you're talking of 10 camels here? And if you're familiar with camels, remember that's why they use camels in the desert, because camels can survive for days without drinking. But think about this, my dear friends. If they survive for days without drinking, the other side of it, what does that mean?
They drink a lot.
When they drink, they drink. Huh? That's why they have enough water in their body, stored in their body. That's why imagine 10 camels who travel for days and then for the first time will drink. She must have a hard time giving water to these camels. But again, very good test and a very good sign for the servant. If the woman does it, no, no. This is the rightful woman. She behaves just like my master. And not only that, she must be a Hebrew because she considers hospitality to be a sacred duty to a stranger. She replied, "Drink, sir." She replied, and quickly lowering the jug into her hand, she gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking." With that, she quickly emptied her jug into the drinking trough and ran back to the well to draw more water until she had drawn enough for all the camels. Wow, that must be a lot. By the way, this chapter is, I think, the longest in the book of Genesis because it just keeps repeating. Because Rebecca, when he goes home, she repeats again. Oh, and the servant repeats again and says, "Oh, when I was in the well, I met your daughter." And then repeats the whole story. So let's just go through the verses so that we can say, "I have read it." Okay. With that, she quickly emptied the jug, drinking trough, and ran back to the well to draw more water until she had drawn enough for all camels. The man watched her the whole time, silently waiting to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took out a gold nose ring weighing half a shekel and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels for her wrist. Can you imagine how rich Abraham is? To give this as gifts to the woman. Then he asked her, "Whose daughter are you? Tell me, please. And is there a place in your father's house for us to spend the night?" She answered, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor." Can you imagine the reaction of the slave upon hearing this? Boy, this is really the grand of Nahor. Nahor is the brother of my master. Boy, this woman is with the slave must be saying, "Wow, the first woman I ever met." She's immediately how good the Lord is. Okay? She answered, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, son of she bore to Nahor. We have plenty of straw and fodder," she added, "and also a place to spend the night." Now, think that the woman is hospitable, but also think, human as we are, after seeing all the wealth of the servant, she must be saying, boy, this is a rich man. Let's go. We have everything in the house. We can receive you there. The man then knelt and bowed down to the Lord, saying, Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not let his kindness and fidelity toward my master fail. I hope you take notice of that. Huh? Because it's very important. Notice that in the entire story with Abraham, compared to Lot, it's a very contrast. With Abraham, every time that there's a blessing, something happens, he never attributed it to himself. Notice here the servant. When he found the woman, he could have said, boy, I'm good. I found the woman. Right? I am a good servant. But no. What's the reaction of the servant? Oh Lord, blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not let his kindness and fidelity toward my master fail. He always provides really for my master. He's such a good God. Sometimes we are tempted to do that. Right? I mean, to do the other side. See, I'm good, huh? Forgetting that everything that we're able to do is always the Lord. As for me, the Lord has led me straight to the house of my master's brother. Really, straight to the house of my master's brother. Then the young woman ran off and told her mother's whole household what had happened. Now Rebecca had a brother named Laban. Very important, remember Laban? So, did I put him here? Let me see. Okay. So Laban is a brother of Rebecca. Where am I? Laban rushed outside to the man at the spring. When he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, and when he heard Rebecca repeating what the man had said to her, he went to him while he was standing by the camels at the spring. He said, Come, blessed of the Lord. Why are you standing outside when I have made the house ready, as well as a place for the camels? The man then went inside, and while the camels were being unloaded and provided with straw and fodder, water was brought to bathe his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. But when food was set before him, he said, I will not eat until I have told my story. Go ahead, they replied. I am Abraham's servant, he began. The Lord has blessed my master so abundantly that he has become wealthy. He has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold, male and female slaves and camels and donkeys. My master's wife Sarah bore a son to my master in her old age, and he has given him everything he owns. My master put me under oath, saying, You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I live. Instead, you must go to my father's house, to my own family, to get a wife for my son. When I asked my master, What if the woman will not follow me? He replied, The Lord in whose presence I have always walked will send his angel with you and make your journey successful. And so you will get a wife for my son from my own family and my father's house. Then you will be freed from my curse. If you go to my family and they refuse you, then too you will be free from my curse. Okay, so of course, Abraham will never allow his son to be brought back to Ur. Okay, so if there's no woman who would go, never bring my son there. And you are free, released from your oath. When I came to the spring today, as I said, that's why it's long, it repeats the whole thing. I said, Lord God of my master Abraham, please make successful the journey I am on. While I stand here at the spring, if I say to a young woman who comes out to draw water, please give me a little water from my jug, and she answers, drink, and I will draw water from your camels too, then she is the woman whom the Lord has decided upon for my master's son. I had scarcely finished saying this to myself when Rebecca came out with a jug on her shoulder. After she went down to the spring and drew water, I said to her, Please let me have a drink. She quickly lowered the jug she was carrying and said, Drink, and I will water your camels too. So I drank, and she watered the camels also. When I asked her, Whose daughter are you? She answered, The daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, born to Nahor by Milcah. So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelet on her wrists. Then I knelt and bowed down to the Lord, blessing the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me on the right road to obtain the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now, if you will act with kindness and fidelity toward my master, let me know. But if not, let me know know that too. I can then proceed accordingly. Okay? So he reported everything that happened and then begged them for what he really needs. Laban and Bethuel said in reply, "This thing comes from the Lord. We can say nothing to you either for or against it. Here is Rebekah right in front of you. Take her and go, that she may become the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has said." When Abraham's servant heard their master, he bowed to the ground before the Lord. Again, the recognition, it's always the Lord, not me, not my capacity. Then he brought out objects of silver and gold and clothing and presented them to Rebekah. He also gave costly presents to her brother and mother. This is like dowry already. After he and the men with him had eaten and drunk, they spent the night there. By the way, why do you give dowry in their culture? Why do you have to give gifts to the family? Because also in the context of the women are the workers. Therefore, if you are taking a daughter or a woman from the family, they are losing a laborer. You have to pay for that. They are losing one worker by getting their daughter. That's why you have to pay in the form of dowry for what they are losing. Okay? When they got up the next morning, he said, "Allow me to return to my master." Her brother and mother replied, let the young woman stay with us a short while, say 10 days. After that she may go. But he said to them, "Do not detain me. Now that the Lord has made my journey successful, let me go back to my master." They answered, "Let us call the young woman and see what she herself has to say about it." So they called Rebekah and asked her, "Will you go with this man?" She answered, "I will." At this they sent off their sister Rebekah and her nurse with Abraham's servant and his men. They blessed Rebekah and said, "Sister, may you grow into thousands of myriads, and may your descendants gain possession of the gates of their enemies." I think the blessing given by the brother and the father, by the family, is of course based on the story of the servant, right? Notice the blessing. "Sister, may you grow into thousands of myriads." I'm sure the servant must have told them, "God promised Abraham, my master, to be the father of many nations. And now he is old. His only hope, of course, is the son Isaac. And through the son Isaac, the promise of God that he will be the father of many nations will happen." That's why the first blessing, "Sister, may you grow into thousands of myriads." Okay? And secondly, "And may your descendants gain possession of the gates of their enemies." To what does that refer? Promised land. Okay? Promised land. Obviously, the servant told the whole family the whole night of what's the situation there. Okay? Why is my master there? Why is he not coming back? Why did he tell me that the woman should go there and not his son to come here? Oh, because God said he will be the father of many nations, and that land will be their land. Okay? And that will happen through Isaac. And Rebekah will be the wife. No wonder that's the blessing given to Rebekah. Then Rebekah and her attendants started out. They mounted the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and went on his way. Meanwhile, as Isaac had gone from Beer-lahai-roi and was living in the region of the Negev, one day toward evening, he went out to walk in the field and caught sight of camels approaching. Rebekah too caught sight of Isaac and got down from her camel. She asked the servant, "Who is the man over there walking through the fields toward us?" "That is my master," replied the servant. Then she took her veil and covered herself. Okay? She has to cover herself because they are to be betrothed, right? To be betrothed, that means there should be no relations between the two of you yet. Okay? Maybe practically it's like a suspense. Wait for the day you can see her. Okay? Then she took her veil and covered herself. The servant recounted to Isaac all the things he had done. Then Isaac brought Rebekah into the tent of his mother Sarah. He took Rebekah as his wife. Isaac loved her and found solace after the death of his mother. Okay, so I think we can end there. Sorry, that's a very long chapter. We just need to finish that. Any questions so far? Very long chapter. I'm rushing to finish it and repetitious. But at least we can say we read that word for word. Okay, any question? So can we have a simple test next Monday? The test will be, those who were attending prior to the pandemic, it's really a test for you, not for me. I don't check it. If you want, we don't need to check it. I'll just give you the answers after. But it's good for you to test yourself like, boy, these are all the things I retained. And the questions are very simple. Like for example, who's the wife of Abraham? At least you will know, yeah, I remember, okay. So it's not a test for me. It's actually a help. I'm giving you a tool to assess yourself of what you retain. Okay? Because the stories become also interesting when you are able to retain at least the salient points, the important points. You are able to connect. So would that be fine? Then I'll just give to you, answer the questions, and then I'll give you the answer here on the board. Check it yourself. I would not even ask how many is the score. That will be between you and yourself. And how many is that? Okay, so that's maybe like 30 questions. Yes.
The donkey and the camel is different from the...
Yes, of course. The donkey is like a small horse. Camel is horse. So we will ride a camel. Next year. We'll ride a camel. That's me. This is how it is to be in a limo during the time of Abraham. Anybody who's tried riding a camel? No? Oh, so you should experience, huh? I have twice. You did? Also? Okay, let us all start. Let us pray. Also, by the way, so sorry, those who are interested really with going to the Holy Land next year, we are finalizing the details, begin saving your piggy banks. Start